Sometimes the dead don't speak, but the truth they leave behind echoes louder than any scream. This is not just a story about crime. It's about blood, about betrayal, and the moment a man realizes that the life he took was the only person who ever truly loved him. In the darkest corners of Camden, New Jersey, one man's journey through violence, identity, and redemption unravels a conspiracy buried in shadows. And when the truth finally comes out, it's already too late. Darren Cross moved like a shadow in the back alleys of Camden, New Jersey, a city with teeth. The type of place where people disappeared between breaths and reappeared in morgues. At 29, Darren wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. In the underworld, he was sharp, fast, and utterly loyal to no one. A former foster kid turned street enforcer for Rico Vasquez's crew, the city's most feared mid-level operation. Drugs, protection rackets, weapons, the whole package. Darren didn't ask questions. He made people disappear. And tonight was just another job. Guy named Charles. Old man. Works nights. No witnesses. Clean shot. Message from Rico. That was all the burner text said. It wasn't personal. Never was. The target's apartment building stood on the edge of a broken neighborhood. Burnt-out street lamps, chain-linked fences, trash swirling in the wind. Darren waited in the alley behind the building, pistol tucked tight in his hoodie pocket. Midnight came. Then 12:14. A man appeared. Older, maybe late 50s. Weathered face, tired eyes. Work uniform with a name patch that read Charles. He was humming something. Something oddly familiar. Darren's breath caught. The tune, was it? Moon River. He hadn't heard that since. He shook the thought off. As the man turned to unlock the back door, Darren stepped out of the shadow. "Hey, old man," he called. Charles turned around slowly, confusion on his face. "Can I help you?" Darren's finger squeezed the trigger. Charles collapsed onto the pavement, the humming silenced. He dumped the gun, changed clothes, routine. But back at his apartment, something gnawed at him. That tune, that face. A memory surfaced. A boy no older than 7, curled up in a blanket, being rocked by a man with soft brown eyes singing Moon River to lull him to sleep. Impossible. He shook his head and poured whiskey. Just then his phone buzzed. New voicemail 1. He played it. "Darren, I don't know if this is still your number, son. I found you. Took years, but I did. I've left letters with people who knew you in the system. If you get this, I'm in Camden. I work nights. My name's Charles now. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. And I love you." His glass shattered on the floor. Across town, Detective Nina Morales zipped up the body bag on Charles Henderson, real name Charles Parker. She'd seen 100 killings this month alone, but something about this one felt off. No enemies, no debts. Worked the night shift at a recycling plant. Clean record, her partner muttered. Nina noticed a detail others might have missed. A worn photograph in Charles's wallet, creased and faded. A man and a boy. On the back, scribbled in blue ink. Darren, age 6. My reason to stay clean. She pocketed the photo. Darren didn't sleep. Couldn't. He dug through old shoeboxes under his bed. Letters he never read. Photos he tried to forget. And one envelope, never opened. He tore it open. Inside was a letter. And a birth certificate. Father, Charles Michael Parker. Son, Darren Elijah Parker. His legs gave out. He sank to the floor, screaming. Rico wasn't happy. "What's with the heat?" he growled, cigar smoke filling the back room of Club Inferno. "Cops are crawling all over that alley. You sure you did it clean?" Darren didn't answer. Rico's eyes narrowed. "What's wrong with you?" "I knew the guy," Darren said quietly. "Yeah. So?" Darren stared him down. "He was my father." Silence. Then Rico laughed. "Then I guess it's family business." Darren didn't laugh. Detective Morales got her hands on nearby surveillance footage. It was grainy, dark, but the killer's walk was distinct. Confident, quick, like someone used to getting away with things. But there was one frame, just one, where his face turned toward the camera for a split second. She froze the frame, enhanced it, studied it. It couldn't be. She pulled up another file. Darren Parker. Multiple arrests. Known enforcer for Vasquez's crew. The boy in the photo. All grown up. Jesus, she whispered. Darren met a woman the next day. Mona, a caseworker from the group home he'd spent time in as a teen. She'd saved his life once after a suicide attempt. She hugged him now like a mother would. He found me a year ago, she whispered. Said he was trying to make amends. Said he regretted everything. Darren broke down in her arms. I didn't know, he sobbed. I didn't know it was him. I know, she said. But that doesn't change what's coming. Rico called again. Police are asking questions. You were caught on a camera. You bring heat to my door, I'll burn you out. Darren didn't flinch. Not this time. You sent me to kill him knowing who he was. Rico was quiet. I think it's time I made things right, Darren said, then hung up. He packed a bag. Not to run, but to expose everything. The files, the texts, the drugs, the people Rico had killed, including a man Darren now knew was only on the hit list because he was trying to bring down the crew from the inside. Detective Morales prepared a warrant. A tip had come in, anonymous, detailed, with names, times, addresses. Everything about Rico Vasquez's operation. Everything. The note simply said, he took my father. Now I'm taking his empire. She smiled. But just then her phone rang. Muffled voice. You're looking for Darren Parker. I can help you find him. But you better hurry. Rico knows. Blick. Darren stood in front of his father's grave under a steel gray sky, the wind tearing at his coat. In his hand a USB drive. The final proof of Rico's entire network. He knelt. I'm sorry, he whispered. But I'll make this right. Behind him a car pulled up. He turned. Gunshots rang out. The screen fades to black. The first bullet shattered the marble headstone beside him. Darren dove behind the grave marker, dragging his backpack with him. Dust and splinters of stone stung his arms. 3 more shots. Darren knew the sound. It wasn't random. Controlled. Measured. Meant to kill, not scare. He yanked out his pistol, heart hammering. He didn't fire. He didn't need to. This wasn't a robbery. This was a message. The 4th shot clipped the stone over his head. And then, silence. The engine screeched off into the distance. Tires skidding on gravel. Whoever it was wanted him alive. Now. He staggered to his feet, looking back at the grave. Charles M. Parker. The world broke him. He still sang. Darren swore under his breath. This isn't over. Back at his rundown apartment, Darren locked the door, drew the blinds, and turned off the lights. He plugged in the USB stick. His father's final attempt to bring down the syndicate. The screen blinked. Files, videos, bank transfers, warehouse logs. And then, something he didn't expect. A folder titled, Parker Redemption Project. Inside were emails between Charles and a woman named Detective Nina Morales. Subject line. Information to dismantle Rico Vasquez's operation. Need protection for my son. His blood turned cold. Charles hadn't just been gathering evidence. He'd been trying to save Darren. Detective Nina Morales sat in her unmarked cruiser near the Camden waterfront, eyes scanning the fog rolling in off the river. She hadn't slept much since Charles Parker's murder. Something about it gnawed at her. And now, out of nowhere, she had a ghost in her inbox. An anonymous tip. Location. A voice from the grave. She gripped the photo from Charles's wallet. Darren, age 6. Her gut said Darren was spiraling. But her instincts said something else. He wasn't the villain in this story. He was the only chance she had to end it. Darren needed allies. Not from the streets. Those were Rico's now. He needed ghosts. The forgotten. He found one in Marcus Stacks Bennett. a former Vasquez accountant who vanished after Rico had his brother killed. Stax had a cabin 3 hours out of town. Off-grid. Paranoid, twitchy, but smart. Darren showed him the USB. Stax paled. You realize what this is? It's a warhead, Darren said. But we need a target. Stax scanned the files. Rico's scheduled an illegal arms transfer tomorrow night. Abandoned shipyard, Pier 17. If we leak this, cops won't get there in time, Darren muttered. No, but we can. Meanwhile, Rico Vasquez sat in his fortress-like mansion, sipping aged whiskey, unaware his empire was leaking from the seams. But cracks were forming. His lawyer had skipped town. 2 of his lieutenants were under silent investigation. And one name kept popping up on every intelligence report. Darren Parker. Rico stared out the window. You should have stayed a soldier, boy, he whispered. Now I have to make you history. Detective Morales sat across from Tommy Graves, a tech journalist who received a copy of the USB files from an unknown source. He played a video for her. Charles Parker, sitting in a worn chair, eyes tired but burning with purpose. If I die before this gets out, let them know. Rico Vasquez owns the police chief. He launders money through a charity named Sunrise Angels. And my son, Darren. He doesn't know it, but they've used him like a pawn his whole life. I only pray he finds this in time. Nina's hands trembled. This wasn't just a case now. It was a reckoning. Night fell. Darren and Stax arrived at Pier 17. Docks so abandoned even the rats had moved out. They wore comms. Kevlar. Shadows became their allies. Shipment day, 2:43 a.m., Stax whispered. We leak it at 2:40, Darren replied. They watched from the rafters of an old crane shed. Below, Rico's men gathered, armed, smug, confident. Cargo trucks rolled in. And then, gunfire. Not theirs, but from the other side of the pier. Sirens, lights, DA and SWAT converging like wolves. Darren blinked. They moved faster than expected, he muttered. No, Stax said slowly. We didn't leak it yet. Darren's stomach dropped. Then who did? Back at his apartment, Stax powered up a burner laptop to trace the breach. His eyes widened. Oh no. What? Darren asked. The USB wasn't just evidence, Stax said. It had a tracker, embedded in the metadata. Someone else sent it out the moment you accessed it. It's a trap. And then, boom. The apartment window shattered. Flashbangs. Darren tackled Stax behind the counter. A squad of masked men flooded the room. Not SWAT. Not private contractors. Mercenaries. Darren grabbed his weapon, firing 2 shots before diving out the fire escape. Stax was hit. Run, Darren. He ran. And behind him his last friend died. Darren limped through Camden's underbelly, blood trailing down his arm. He collapsed in an alley, vision fading. A girl, maybe 10, peeked out from a tenement window above. You okay, mister? She whispered. He could barely nod. She came down, offered him a tattered blanket. You look like my dad used to. What's your name? Faith, she said. He smiled bitterly. Of course it is. She helped him inside. And for the first time in days, Darren slept. Nina Morales made a decision. She leaked the Parker files to an independent news outlet. The morning headline: Camden crime lord tied to police politicians. Dead father's files expose decades of corruption. And in smaller font: local son turns against crime syndicate after father's murder. The city shook. Rico went silent. Darren became public enemy number 1, for both sides. Darren stood in the shadows near City Hall, watching from across the street as officials were escorted out in handcuffs. But then, a black van pulled up beside him. The door slid open. Inside sat a woman, Detective Nina Morales. I think it's time we finished what your father started, she said. But first, she added, sliding a file across the seat. Darren opened it. Inside, surveillance photos of him as a child, his father, his mother, and one image, with a date. A full year after Charles was declared missing. "That's impossible," Darren whispered. "He said he was gone." "He wasn't," Nina said. "And that's the problem." Blackout. The file Detective Morales handed Darren had dust on it, almost like someone had hidden it deliberately. Inside were sealed affidavits, faded surveillance photos, and one name circled in red. Angela Parker, his mother. The file claimed she was alive, living under a different identity in North Carolina. Witness protection, and more. She signed off on Charles's mission. A lump caught in Darren's throat. He had spent most of his life thinking she died of an overdose when he was 6. But it was all part of the cover. To protect him. "I need to see her," Darren muttered. Nina placed a hand on his shoulder. "You will. But first we need to end Rico." They met in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Camden. Nina, Darren, and what was left of the internal task force that hadn't been bought or silenced by Rico's money. Stax was gone. But he had left behind a blueprint. A map of Rico's digital ledger, revealing millions laundered through charities, front businesses and politicians. The final piece was Rico himself. And Darren had an idea. "Let me walk in." "Alone," he said. "Darren," Nina started. "He trained me. He won't kill me without gloating first." It was risky, but it was the only way. Rico Vasquez sat like a king in the underworld, surrounded by LED lights, gold-plated walls, and a security detail that would rival a small army. But he let Darren through. "Look who crawled back," Rico said with a grin. "You finally done running." Darren nodded. "You win, Rico. I'm tired. I'm done." He dropped the USB drive onto the table. "I was going to leak this, but maybe I just want out." Rico leaned in. "Smart boy. You always knew where your bread was buttered." But what Rico didn't know, Darren's phone was recording, broadcasting. To Nina. To a federal server. To the world. As Rico laughed and boasted, Darren kept his expression cold. Until the moment Rico said, "Charles. That pathetic excuse of a man. I let him live just long enough to watch you fall." Darren's heart froze. "What? Oh, you didn't know." Rico sneered. "He was alive until the day I ordered you to kill him. You knew. Picked him for you. That was the test." Darren's blood boiled. He stood slowly, fists trembling. "That's the last thing you'll ever say to me." He pressed the side of his phone. SWAT burst through the compound. Gunfire. Screams. Darren dove behind a statue. Rico fired. Darren returned 2 shots. One hitting Rico in the shoulder. Sirens blared. Rico's empire was falling. 3 days later, Darren stood in a modest kitchen in Raleigh, North Carolina. A woman stood before him, eyes filled with tears. His mother, Angela. "I thought I'd lost you," she whispered. "I thought you were dead," he said. She stepped forward, cupping his face. "We did everything to protect you. We never wanted this life for you." Darren couldn't speak. They just held each other, silently. Years of pain, lies, and separation melting into one broken, healing embrace. Rico Vasquez was sentenced to life without parole. His empire dismantled. His name erased from power. Darren didn't escape justice. He turned himself in. For his crimes he served 5 years. But in those 5 years he wrote. He volunteered. He helped others trapped in gang life find ways out. And when he was released, he walked out into a world that finally felt like his own. Epilogue. Bury me in truth. Darren returned to Camden, not to fight but to teach. He built a community center on the same block where his father had died. He named it the Charles Center. Above the door, a plaque that read, "Bury me in truth, and let my son rise from it." Moral lesson. This story isn't just about crime. It's about blood, about truth, about how the lies we believe can destroy generations. But the truth, when faced bravely, can rebuild everything. Forgiveness isn't weakness. Justice isn't revenge. And redemption is possible, even for those who once believed they were beyond saving. If this story moved you, taught you something, or made you reflect on second chances, don't forget to white heavy check mark subscribe to the channel for more gripping real-life stories. Speech balloon, comment your thoughts below. What would you have done if you were Darren? Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you for watching Undercover Tales, where truth is always stranger and deeper than fiction. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious.